courtroom was supposed to be calm that morning. Papers shuffled quietly, lawyers whispered to their clients, and a few reporters typed lazily into their laptops. To anyone walking in, it looked like just another day in court. But beneath that stillness, tension was boiling. Everyone knew this case wasn't ordinary. Everyone knew the decision today would either make history or break it. When Judge Harris entered, the room stiffened. He didn't look like the composed, detached figure people were used to. There was something sharper in his eyes, a storm that hadn't been there before. He adjusted his robe, took his seat, and glanced around the courtroom as if measuring every soul in the room. On the left side sat the prosecution, confident, rigid faces full of certainty that their months of preparation would finally pay off. On the right, the defense team, nervous but hiding it with forced smiles. And then in the center sat the accused, shoulders straight, head slightly bowed, hands clasped together, trying to look composed but trembling ever so slightly. The case had consumed the country. For weeks, headlines screamed about it, talk shows debated it, social media couldn't stop arguing about it, but now the waiting was over, the verdict was here. The air thickened. You could hear the hum of the ceiling fan, the faint scratch of a pen on paper, even the anxious breathing of the people in the gallery. The clerk called the court to order, and then Judge Harris leaned forward. His voice was steady and deliberate. "This court finds," he paused, letting the words hang. The silence was unbearable. People leaned in, holding their breath, as though their lives depended on what he was about to say. And then, "Not guilty." The room exploded. Gasps, shouts, cries of disbelief. Chairs scraped against the floor as people jumped to their feet. Reporters scrambled for their phones. Cameras clicked in rapid-fire bursts. Some in the gallery clapped and cheered. Others screamed in outrage. The defense attorney froze for a second, then grinned like a man who had just witnessed a miracle. Across the aisle, the prosecutor slammed a fist against the table, his face red with fury, his case collapsing in an instant. But it wasn't over. Judge Harris raised his hand, demanding silence, and what he said next turned a shocking verdict into an earthquake. "This court not only finds the defendant not guilty," he declared, his voice now louder, firmer, "but it also finds that this case was poisoned by corruption, manipulation, and the reckless abuse of power." The gallery erupted again, louder, wilder. Some people shouted, "Yes," while others screamed, "Shame." One woman fainted. Another man yelled, "This is rigged." Guards rushed to contain the chaos, but the energy was uncontrollable. The accused, now free, turned slowly to face the room. Cameras zoomed in. With a trembling voice but steady eyes, they whispered the words that would dominate headlines for days. "The truth always wins." And just like that, the story spread like fire. Outside the courthouse, crowds waiting with signs and banners suddenly erupted too. Some cheered in celebration, hugging strangers, chanting victory. Others screamed betrayal, throwing their signs on the ground, demanding justice. Police struggled to hold back the waves of protesters. Helicopters hovered overhead, broadcasting the chaos live across the nation. Every news channel replayed the moment on loop. Social media exploded with hashtags, memes, and conspiracy theories. People weren't just talking about the verdict. They were questioning everything: who was pulling the strings, how deep did the corruption go, and what would happen now that the truth was out. Inside the courtroom, Judge Harris sat back, exhausted but unshaken. He had just detonated a bomb in the middle of the legal system, and he knew the aftershocks would be felt for years. For the prosecution, it was a devastating defeat. For the defense, it was a triumph beyond imagination. But for the country, it was a turning point, a moment that blurred the lines between justice and power, truth and deception. The courtroom had erupted, and as the crowds outside chanted, the cameras rolled, and the world debated, one thing became clear: this wasn't just the end of a trial. This was the beginning of a much bigger story. Because when a judge shocks the world with one decision, the echoes never fade quickly. They ripple through history, leaving scars and questions that may never fully be answered. And if you want to see more stories that expose shocking truths and unforgettable moments like this, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications.